Now, here I come. That's really nice. That's nice. Thank you very much. Save that. No, listen, save it. Or are you moving the air around in here? Lordy, what a day in New York. And no kneeling when I come out. That embarrasses me. Well, today, some extraordinary entertainers will walk on this stage and join us in saluting an extraordinary name in Broadway musical theater history. Our guest of honor today is the composer of such classic musicals as Gypsy, Funny Girl, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Bells Are Ringing, shows which gave the world great songs that we're still singing, like The Party's Over, People, Everything's Coming Up Roses, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, many, many, many more. A man whose music for Hollywood and Broadway over nearly 50 years has made him a theatrical legend. Mr. Jule Styne is our guest today. Now, I mentioned some of the Broadway show tunes that you know, and that Jule Styne is certainly famous for. He produced songs for the movies like Time After Time, It's Magic, Three Coins in the Fountain, I'll Walk Alone. He's written some 1,400 songs in all, and just wait till you hear who's here today to perform some of them for you. Jule Styne had an important part in the early career of my first guest, show business giant. He produced the show which assured this man of Broadway stardom. The big hit from that musical was Too Close for Comfort. The show, of course, was Mr. Wonderful, and I think that appropriately sums up this very special entertainer. Mr. Wonderful himself, Sammy Davis Jr. is here. Isn't that great? Now, to have a hit musical on Broadway, it helps to have the right creative chemistry. And just listen to the credits of this classic Broadway musical. Producers David Merrick and Leland Hayward. Book by Arthur Lawrence. Music by Jule Styne. Lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. Choreography by Jerome Robbins. There was no way it could miss, I think. Especially since the show was Gypsy, and the star is the First Lady of the musical theater. She is here today. The one and only Ethel Merman is here. So if you're wearing contact lenses, take them out now, because that voice cracks windows all over the place here. Also with us is a team famous for a number of things. Their lyrics for Broadway shows, their screenplays, such as Singing in the Rain, Bandwagon, Auntie Mame, and more recently they're performing a review of their song hits, many of which, you can be assured, were featured in the shows they wrote with Jule Styne, such as The Bells Are Ringing, Subways Are for Sleeping, Do Re Mi, Say Darling. Joining us, the fabulous team of Betty Comden and Adolph Green. Comden and Green. Now, the Jule Styne, Betty Comden, and Adolph Green musical Subways Are for Sleeping will always have special meaning to this next woman. It gave her a show-stopping number, Shoe In, and a Tony Award, a favorite of yours from Broadway, from nightclubs, television, and she happens to be Mrs. Adolph Green. Phyllis Newman is here. Now, as a rehearsal pianist for the show Funny Girl, this next young man every day got to play such Jule Styne songs as People and Don't Rain on My Parade for the star of that show, Barbra Streisand. The show which made her a superstar. This young man met with Streisand again, and this time to play the song he wrote for her called The Way We Were, which eventually won him an Oscar. He's also the composer of such Broadway shows as A Chorus Line and the current smash musical on Broadway. They're playing our song. Marvin Hamlisch is our guest. Well, from now on, for the rest of this show, the music you hear will be that of Jule Styne. And I'd like to start it off with a song he gave to every singer I know. I don't know anybody who hasn't sung this song, and a lot of you, I'm sure, daily in the shower at home. But it's a terrific song. It's from The Bells Are Ringing. And Mort, if you will. I was resting comfortably. My face was in the gutter. Life was serene, 'cause I knew where I was at. There's no hope for him, my dearest friends would mutter. I was something dragged in by the cat. Then just in time, I found you just in time. Before you came, my time was running low, and I was lost. The losing dice were tossed. My bridges all were crossed. Nowhere to go. But now you're here, and now I know just where I'm going. No more doubts or fears. I found my way, for love came just in time. I found you just in time, and changed my lonely life that lovely day. But now you're here, and now I know just where I'm going. No more doubts or fears. I found my way, for love came just in time. I found you just in time, and changed my lonely life that lovely day. Yes, you changed my life that lovely day. First song, Jule Styne, many, many more, but particularly with our next performer after this commercial break, Mr. Sammy Davis, Jr. Whether it be a nightclub, a Broadway stage, or a motion picture, the man about to join us has that special something that just thrills audiences. He is without a doubt the complete performer. Ladies and gentlemen, would you greet Mr. Sammy Davis, Jr.
Time after time, I tell myself that I'm so lucky to be loving you. So lucky to be the one you run to see in the evening when the day is through. I only know what I know. The passing years will show. You've kept our love so young, so new. And time after time, you'll hear me say that I'm so lucky to be loving you. George Rhodes and Merv's Orchestra. see in the evening when the day is through. I only know what I know. The passing years will show. You kept my love so young, so new. And time after time, you'll hear me say that I'm so lucky to be loving you. One more time. Time after time, you'll hear me say that I'm so lucky to be loving you. Yes, I'm lucky to be loving
Sammy Davis with one of Jule Styne's all-time great songs. We'll be right back. You realize that I was backstage maybe 50 times when you were doing Mr. Wonderful. That was a thrill, because that was the first time I'd ever really been backstage and saw the way it all worked. Wonderful Jack Carter was in the show.
Yes. Pat Marshall.
Pat Marshall.
And Olga James, who played my leading lady.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful voice, who married a legend, man who is no longer with us, but his music left us something kind of special. Cannonball.
Yeah.
Cannonball
yeah.
Adderley.
That show, in many ways, made some theatrical history.
Yes, in many, many ways. It was the first integrated sort of, and I don't mean this in the pedantic sense, I just mean it that it was integrated in terms of the realities of the society in which it was going at that time.
Yeah.
And we didn't make no pressure about it, and it wasn't an interracial romance as later on that happened in Golden Boy for me. But Mr. Wonderful was very special to me because, first of all, it was my first sort of toe in the door of Broadway. And Jule Styne fought a lot of battles that, fortunately, most of the talented black artists today, if their producers want to use them, the Broadway producers want to use them, they don't have to fight those battles anymore because Jule Styne fought them in the beginning.
The reviews were not unanimous by any means.
No.
In fact, some said the show will close within a week. But Sammy can't say this, but I can because I was here. His performance was so powerful and his name was so exciting to Broadway theatergoers that it was word of mouth that went around this whole town and to all of the conventions and people coming in that made that show the tremendous hit.
It was,
and it almost turned around and said, see, you guys don't have that power you think you have to close us.
It was the beginning
night.
of that, too.
You bet it was.
The Broadway buffs, I don't know if people in the audience are aware of the fact that there are certain people, ushers, theater managers, who have the privilege of walking in to a theater and without tickets, and they can stand in the back. And they used to catch the last scene, Why Can't a Woman Be More Like a Man, from Fair Lady.
Right.
And then they'd see that, then they would walk around the street, around the corner, from the Mark Hellinger to the Broadway, to catch the final couple of scenes in Mr. Wonderful, or to catch the
nightclub act.
The nightclub act,
Yeah.
or they would catch the thing with Carter and I. Because that started out as a 6-minute hunk and grew into 20 minutes.
Right. And that was known in movies as the Ten Commandments. You saw that picture. Yeah. It was spectacular. I used to come in and catch that all the time.
Because we never knew what we were going to do, and because we're both down front performers. And Jack Donahue, who directed the show, is also a down front, you know, away we go type of guy, who did Top Banana and a lot of television and a lot of...
He was a hoofer himself.
Hoofer himself, and a marvelous one. He said, just feel free to, and whatever the topic of the day was, we'd go with it.
I remember.
And Jack Jack Carter was insane. You know, it was insanity working with him, but it was marvelous.
Let me, if I may, introduce to you one of the giant composers of this century. The reason we assemble this whole show today, and the reason such terrific performers such as Sammy Davis and that sound man who just did that, and Ethel and Marv, everybody is here today. He's over 1,400 songs to his credit and continues to turn out excellent work in prolific fashion, despite the fact that he's in his 70s. I wonder if he knows that even. God, it might be a terrible shock when he hears that. I am 70. But just about everyone involved with Broadway and motion picture musicals has worked with him in some way, and his life story is told in this interesting new book called Jule, the story of composer Jule Styne. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Mr. Jule Styne. I'm not even going to talk to him yet about his music. There is a story in this book that I can't even believe. Tell him the story of Al Capone. Not the whole story, but I mean...
Well, it was in back in Chicago. I had a band in the Variety House, the Granada Theater, and my trombone player came up to me one day. He says, "Mr. Brown would like to see you." He says, "It's at the Metropole Hotel." And I went to the Metropole Hotel, and there was 2 rows of guards who frisked me. And I figured this Mr. Brown is something else than I expected to see. And I walked up to the 4th floor, and there I met Mr. Brown. When he turned around, it was Al Capone. His name was Mr. Al Brown and Al Capone. And he said, "You see, I'm having a festivity for a whole week before the Dempsey-Tunney fight at Soldiers Field. And I have a very distinguished guest list. Judges,
Right.
senators, federal judges, mayors,
Right.
and their wives."
Right.
And he says, "And I hear you're a pretty good kid, but I'll tell you how I want this show. Every night a different headliner. I want Harry Richmond, that time was the headliner,
Yeah.
the Duncan sisters,
Right.
Belle Baker, whatever. But he says, it opens with me conducting Rhapsody in Blue." I looked at him. I didn't laugh. He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Yes, sir."
You didn't even say, what will you conduct it with?
Nothing. I said nothing. I was with him all the way. I'm on his side. And he said, "Well, you don't believe I know how it goes."
Huh.
I said, "I believe." You wouldn't ask me if you didn't. No, he says, "Wait a minute. It starts with a clarinet." I said, "You know it, of course."
And now at the piano, the man himself, Mr. Jule Styne. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, as I told you before, when I made a transition from my concert piano days to popular music and I became an instant smash playing for dancing in a school auditorium, a fellow asked me, would I write a song for a school show? And this is early Jule Styne, age 14. Whatever happened to the guy with the polka-dotted tie? He could sing so very high. He used to sing top tenor in the old quartet. Then he met a soprano from the Metropolitan Opera. They sang together for a while. Then she marched him down the aisle. He surrendered to her smile. They settled down in a town that isn't on the map. And they lived together very happily ever after. And that's what happened to the guy with the polka-dotted tie and the girl that he met at the Met. For this, I received an Academy Award. I failed 7 times and got it on the 8th time. That's why I always play number 8 in the numbers game. see, my father never accepted my songwriting career because he didn't pay for that. He paid for my piano lessons. And he could never imagine how I could become a songwriter. Even when I sent him records by Sammy Davis or Tommy Dorsey or whatever, he'd always say, I don't hear you play. He could never get over the fact that I didn't play on those records. I wrote the song. You see, my father played piano for... If my father were here tonight, whoever he's sitting next to, he would say, you ought to hear him play when he was 8 years old. This is what he played for. That's enough for my father. But the next song is an important song. And it becomes the identification with a certain artist. And this song, indeed, is played on every time Miss Barbra Streisand walks on a stage.
His encouragement to me, and my being a fan in the old days. Then one day I got to thinking about the man who was responsible for writing most of the songs when he got his foot in the door in Hollywood, Sinatra, that is. And this is one that's always been sort of a favorite. Do you want me to use that thing?
Sure, whatever you want.
Okay. I fall in love too easily. I fall in love too fast. I fall in love too terribly hard for love to ever last. My heart should be well schooled, 'cause I've been fooled in the past, and still I fall in love too easily. I fall in love. And this was the Sinatraism of the day at the time. Too fast.
Frank was responsible for a lot of wonderful things that you did. He can do no wrong. You know, he calls me maybe once every 3 years. I tend all his marriages. And he, in his first picture, a movie called Anchors Away, the brass of the top brass of MGM said right in front of me, he said, Frank, you can have Cole Porter or Jerome Kern. Frank lit a cigarette as though he was going to go in to hang my chairs out to dry or something. And he says, fellas, you don't understand. If Jule Styne doesn't write the score, I don't do the movie. So he was there when I needed him the most.
You mentioned
that's
a
when it
song
counts.
just then, Julie. that is, I suppose every composer has his one song that's a crying in your drink at midnight kind of song after the lady has left.
Yeah.
And you have the classic of all time. And I dare you to remember the verse.
Are you joking me? Are you joshing, my dear lad?
All right.
Okay?
Tally ho.
Not to witty.
Good on. Silly putty.
The touch I carry is handsome. It's worth its heartache in ransom. And when the twilight steals, I know how that lady in the harbor feels. When I want rain, I get sunny weather. I'm just as blue as the sky. Since love is gone, can't pull myself together. I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Friends ask me out, I tell them I'm busy. Must get a new alibi. I stay at home and ask myself, where is she? Guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Dry little teardrops, my little teardrops, hanging on a string of dreams. Fly little memories, my little memories, reminder of our crazy schemes. Somebody said, just forget about her. I gave that treatment a try. And strangely enough, I got along without her. I'll make you sing. Then one day she passed me right by. Oh, well, I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Double on the rocks for the two of us.
Sammy's on his way to Westbury, Long Island, with our thanks and our love. Thank you, Sammy. Sammy Davis. We'll be right back, and the great Ethel Merman will join.